Okay, good morning. Pardon? He can't make it. Okay,
I'm not gonna sit out here on the end, I'm moving over.
good. Let's be cozy. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, October 21st. This is Public Works Procurement and Contracting. Can we have a roll call?
Calling the roll, Mr. Germana,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here,
Ms. Conwell,
Here.
Mr. Greenspan is absent, Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. There is a quorum.
Okay. I understand that Mr. Greenspan is tied up with working on some budget issues, so he will not be able to attend. Any public comment related to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
Okay, the minutes of the September 30th meeting. We have a motion. I'll move that we approve. Second?
second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Approved. First issue is 0206.
Resolution number 2015-0206, making an award on requisition number 34074 to R.W. Clark in the amount not to exceed $1,179,073 for the Cuyahoga County Courthouse Americans with Disabilities Act Improvements Project.
Good morning, Stan.
Good morning. Sorry, Stan Kozlowski, Public Works. Yes, we're here recommending an award to R.W. Clark. The Office of Procurement and Diversity has set aside a 30% SBE goal. The recommended vendor has a 44% SBE goal. They are a SBE firm, and they have two other firms to go above the. They get a 20% credit, so there's 24% more being subbed out. Engineer's estimate on this project is $1.5 million. The bid came in at $1.179 million. Bids were opened on August 12th, 2015. 6 proposals were pulled from OPD. 5 bids were submitted and reviewed, and we're recommending R.W. Clark. The contract and procurement time, we anticipate with the probably a start date on this project right after Thanksgiving, so around December 1st. And it'll be about 9-month completion to do the work. And then the last thing is just to let everybody know that through the plan development phase, our staff has coordinated with the 3 court administrators that would be impacted by this work. They were all invited to the pre-construction meeting, and Jim Viviani attended, so we've been making sure that we've been coordinating with them because this obviously does impact them. And the scope of work, just a brief summary if I could. The first, second, and third floors, there'll be courtroom minimum ADA requirements made. ADA upgrades to the existing toilets in the ground floor, west men's and east women's bathrooms. First and second floor will be remodeling the men's toilets rooms into new women's toilets rooms. New ADA toilet rooms on the first floor for men and women. On the second floor, men's and women. And on the third floor, women's and remodeled men's will be done with new ADA ramps, along with ADA upgrades. They'll add handrails to the west and southwest, east, southeast main stairwells to the ground floor, handrails to the center stairway, replace ADA audible signals with chimes in the existing elevators. So that's a general scope of the project, what's being done. There's a lot of little things that needed to be upgraded. I can answer any questions.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to see that there's competitively bid. That's good. It's well underneath the estimate. I see that in the legislation we wanted to start construction on September 15th, so we're beyond that.
Yes,
So I'm inclined to move this right along. Second reading suspension if there's no objection. Any questions, Ms. Conwell?
I also have.
Through the chair to Stan, in regards to the scope, do they have does that include the push buttons for the doors to open for the restrooms?
I think that's included, but I can verify that. I'm assuming when they make them ADA compliant that that's part of that process, but I will double check and let you know. I don't know for sure.
Because I did, was at the library, Euclid Library the other day, and there was a female in the restroom that couldn't get out. She was in a wheelchair, and even though they have to open up the library, they didn't have it for the bathroom doors, so I was just wondering about that.
Okay, I'll
And
get
could
you.
you go over, this 2009 general fund obligation?
Yes.
The tax bonds? Has this pre-existed us?
Right. Yeah, this project had started back when, and with the transitions, it never really, with the reorganizations and stuff, it just never moved forward, and now it's moving forward in that regard. So I know we work with the fiscal office in terms of the tax obligations and how they, if they sell the tax bonds, how they readjust when they do that. We've been working with the fiscal department to have a better capital plan, so when they sell the bonds, that they don't have to go back, and we have to be careful with arbitrage issues, that we don't get any penalties if the projects do not move forward. So we are working with them to have a better capital plan when these projects go, to take into account hiring consultants, reviews, permits, budget items like that. So I'm assuming in the past that this was originally processed as that, and they have worked to shift the monies around from other funds.
So was there a total number of the tax bonds that were taken out?
I don't have that exact detail in here.
So I was just wondering, in 2009, when they took out these tax bonds, it was to cover all of county-owned buildings to bring them up to ADA standards?
What they probably do when they do sell bonds, what I'm aware of, is they will specify specific projects that they will go out and sell for and bond. So they go back and take any costs that might have occurred before it, and then you have a certain time frame that you have to have those projects under construction. The problem is with the transition and then staff shifting and stuff, some of the projects moved forward, some didn't. So I know internally in a fiscal department, they have to make sure that if they identify projects, they have to sell them or they become issues with us. So I think they work internally to make sure that if this was set for those tax bonds, I'm sure they've made some budget adjustments through council over time. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. But this would have been set aside for this project, not necessarily a countywide project.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Miller?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Kozlowski, I'd like to go in the same direction. Are we saying that that there was still money in this 2009 bond fund allocated for this project that's being used to fund it, or has that bond account long been closed out and it's being funded elsewhere?
I have a feeling it's the second answer, but I will clarify that because of what my understanding is with the bonds. Once you sell those, I think you have a 2-year period to sell those projects. So I think sometimes there's adjustments that are made. I can find out. I think that was actually how this was originally set up. But my opinion, and I could be wrong on it, so I'll get back with you, is I think that's not correct.
So my question is, if it's not from the original 2009 bond issue, what is the funding source?
I'll clarify that.
And if it is from the 2009 bond issue, how much money is still left in that bond account? And I would appreciate if you could get us this information promptly, because I think it's relevant to what's going on in the budget hearings.
I definitely will get it to you.
Okay. Second question is since the bids were open on August 12th,
Yes.
why did it take from August 12th to October 21st more than 2 months to get it to this committee? And is that typical, or was this an outlier?
This was there was a clarification in the scope that we had to. The project was bid out, and part of the scope was to include some asbestos abate, or some abatement of some of the floors in here. And there was some confusion in the bidding documents. So it took us some time to go back to the original contractor to make sure that that was clearly identified. We didn't want to go back out, go ahead and process something, then all of a sudden he would come back and saying, well, there's some clarification, we owe more. So it took us a while to work with the contractor to make sure that that was clarified in the document. That is why is the delay. And as the chairman mentioned earlier, we had originally set this to go September 3rd. We wanted to make sure we were going forward without having to process an amendment from the start. That's the reason for the delay.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know if you mentioned this, because I was just looking things over while Councilwoman Conwell was speaking. This is general fund obligation limited tax bonds. What does that mean? What's limited? Do you have any idea, or legal counsel?
I would have to check and get back to you.
Okay, just for information, if we could find out, and then
Sure.
send the information to Janine and she'll send it to us. I mean, I don't think we normally see limited. So
Right.
we might as well get a little education out of the deal.
That's why I think there's something here, because I just know in general from some of the projects that we've worked on recently, because we've been working with OBM to make sure that when we work on a project or something gets put into a bond sale, that the bidding time frame can happen within that bond sale. So I know that's something we're aware of now because of the way the county funds some of its capital projects for facilities. So that's why I wish I had that answer, and I'm sorry I wasn't.
That's okay.
I'll get it for you.
Okay, so I have the sense that we need to move this along, so I'll move that we send this to full council under second reading suspension in hopes that we'll have the answers to these questions by then. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. This goes to council, second reading suspension.
Thank you.
Next,
Resolution number 2015-0207, authorizing a revenue-generating utility agreement with Village of Newburgh Heights for maintenance and repair of storm sewers, sanitary sewers, and water lines located in County Sewer District number 22.
Good morning, Stan Kozlowski, Public Works. Again, you've seen a few of these agreements, these utility agreements come before you. We work with our law department on these, and actually Anka Davis has helped us immensely on updating our agreements. With the Village of Newburgh Heights, it's a inter-ring community. A lot of their sewers are combined sewers. Some of the projects that we've done in the past 5 or so years has actually worked to separate their sewers as they've had some flooding issues and stuff. So what we're proposing here is basically a change in the language to basically allow the funds that we collect to be used for the combined storm or sanitary sewers, because the problem is if they're specific to sanitary and we separate them, basically the goal is you want to discharge them down the line in separate sewer systems, but depending on how the sewers are connected, you're working to fix those as you go along. So basically the rate is still the same. It's basically just modifying the agreement to the present conditions that are in this village now. And I'll answer any questions you have.
okay, any questions? Mr. Conwell?
Through the chair to Stan, you just mentioned that you were gonna modify for any current, do you know what those conditions are?
Oh, it's basically, we've put in some sewers where we've separated, they've had combined sewers. I can't think of the streets now, but I know we worked on them. They were having a very bad flooding problem. It's behind where the White Dove factory is off of Harvard, and there's a side street that goes along in the back there. And then there's behind White Dove, there's actually a pit of slag, I think, that the steel companies own. And God, when we were going there, the sewer was so far down that it was blocked. It was an old creek at one time, and I think in some instances it had like 80 feet of fill on top of it. Well, the problem was some of it collapsed. So that collapse was causing a backup. So while we're doing this project, we went in there and we cleaned out, we rebuilt that part of that sewer, but up into the streets that this was draining down into, to help the problems, we were separating their storm sewers and their streets to the sanitary. So we're eventually looking to try and, always the goal with the EPA is to separate your storm and sanitary sewers. So that was one situation that I'm definitely aware of that we've done in the past.
Stan, is this, are they new to the sanitary engineer?
No, they've been around quite a few years, I know.
Okay, so then this
On my
is
rate
just,
sheet.
this is amendment of services.
Right, it's, right, correct.
Okay. Okay, so this is pretty much routine. It's at no cost to the county, and it may cost the properties involved with assessments.
Yes. And there's no increase at this time.
So there's really no reason to hold this up, so I'll move for second reading suspension to the full council. A second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. It's adopted.
Thank
Sent
you.
to council. Thank you. Then we have 208.
Resolution number 2015-0208, authorizing an amendment to contract number CE 1000546 with Pioneer Building for lease of office and warehouse space for a special waste convenience center.
Good morning, Stan Kozlowski, Public Works. Basically, what we have before you is we're recommending the renewal option of the existing lease. The space is housed where the county's solid waste district in Garfield Heights. The I think the rates are still the same as they. There's a slight increase in the rates. The original term. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find out if the rate increases. There's a slight increase in the rates. It looks like there's about a 5% rate increase per year. It was in the original agreement, and then it's basically with the lease option that we're asking here to exercise. That was negotiated in the original term. Here to answer any questions.
Okay, let's see here. To extend the time period to 10/31 till to 11/1, so this is another one of these that we're kind of at the last minute. Any questions, Mrs. Conwell?
Through the chair to Stan, the 5% increase per year, that was originally in the contract?
Yes,
If it was needed and everybody was okay with that?
correct.
And so now we're showing that some cost went up somewhere, so we have to increase them.
Well, it was the same, the lease was, the rates were set in the original lease, and then they, like, a lot of times in the past, they would do sometimes a 5-year lease, then maybe a 5-year renewal. So the lease was negotiated with 5 years, and then the renewal was also negotiated at that time as an option to execute with basically these rents.
Okay. But we didn't, when we initially signed the agreement, we didn't know what the rates would be, so we added this language for the 5%, just in.
The dollar amounts are specific, and I was just doing a quick calculation in my mind, and it looks like it's about a 5% increase. They're spelled out in the language in the.
And these are basically standard contracts that we put the 5% in?
Some are. It just depends on how the contracts are set up when the lease is negotiated at that time. This one was set up in that regard.
Thank you.
The contract or agreement needs a signature in ink by October 31st. So, any other questions?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
To Kozlowski, is it, was the rate the same for the first 5 years?
It had the same escalation through the first 5 years, so it looks like they just went and they said they were just having a rate increased. It's about 4 to 5% through the whole term,
So it increases 4 to 5% every year?
annually, correct?
Yeah. that's way above the cost of inflation and above by more than that by what county revenues increase.
Let me do that. It's about 3.5%.
3.5%.
Sorry,
Okay.
I was rounding. My math is.
And just a matter of coincidence, the cost of this contract is the same as the cost of fixing the county courthouse to within $500.
Wow. See if that happens again, huh?
Well, I know this is conveniently located right off of 480 there. And it's modern building, so.
It really works well with their needs when they have their recycling events. I know they have a large dock area where they bring a lot of different things in there. It really suits their needs quite well. I know that the director, Diane Bickett, is very, I think they're very happy with their space.
Okay, any other questions, Mr. Miller? We're all set. Okay, I'll move that this, since it needs to be signed in ink by October 31st, I'll move that this go to full council under second reading suspension. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Goes to council. Okay, Janine, it was discussed at the finance and budget meeting Monday that, and suggested that the Halley building progress be discussed in Public Works. So the next meeting, November 4th, we'll have a discussion. We don't have to pass anything, but there was a lot of loose ends as far as planning around the Halley building, and we'll get an idea of what the questions need to be. But we'll hear that on November 4th, okay? Is there any public comment
No, Mr. Chair, no one
not
is signed
related?
in.
Okay. Okay, then our next Public Works and Contracting meeting will be on November 4th. That concludes our business, so this meeting stands adjourned.
Okay.